Welcome to Just Brad. That is moi. So yeah, this is the first video. It's probably going to obviously be the worst one I ever do. Nerves are through the roof, as you can probably tell. But I was trying to ask you lot. You lot, that sounds so polite. I tried to ask you if you've heard about attachment theory and what your attachment is yourselves. Um, it's important. It's what we all have as children when we grow up. What our caregivers, parents, whoever your caregiver is when you grow up, is basically how you form in adult life. Basically, when you get older, what we learn, all our core wounds we learn as children is what we take into adulthood. Um, Now that mainly shows up in relationships. To be honest, it can show up in other ways, but it's normally relationships where it shows up, and that's basically because relationships obviously have a impact in you can lose them, you can lose your relationship, so it shows any insecurity that you might have. Basically, is the fear of losing your partner or the fear of how you interact together, which you don't see with friends as much. You know, you're a little bit more relaxed with your friends. You know, you don't think, oh God, I'm going to lose my friend. And they can show up whenever they like, and it doesn't affect you as much. But with relationships, it all stems from childhood and how your caregivers bring you up. Now, attachment wise, you've got dismissive avoidant, you've got fearful avoidant, anxious preoccupied, and secure attachment, which obviously is what everybody wants to get to. So the dismissive avoidant, they're brought up in by caregivers that is basically that they're not showing enough love. They're not showing love at all, really. So with that, in adulthood, they don't have that emotional need like the other attachments do. They're more kind of insular to their own sort of needs in a kind of a selfish way, but they don't mean to be selfish. They've learned through childhood that that is what that is what it is, and half the time they don't even realise that they're doing it because that's who they are. That's what they know. So it's important, obviously, that they are aware of it, and obviously then you can do something about it through repetition, in reprogramming, which obviously will go on in different videos in future. But the dismissive avoidant, because they didn't get the love as a child, in adulthood, basically what that's going to mean is they're not going to show that in their relationships. Now, between the 2 to 6 month stage, you know, at the beginning of a relationship, it's fun. You're getting to know each other. The emotions are there. You know, you've not bonded and fallen for each other at that point. You're sort of on that route to doing that. So what happens is they're quite happy at the beginning because they're just enjoying the other person. But as soon as you get to that 6 month stage or a little bit before is when it all starts to emotions for the dismissive avoidant starts to really take its toll on them. Now what they'll do is the emotions will get so strong that this other person wants commitment from them, and you see they're not used to that. They've not seen that growing up, so they're like, oh my god, I need to get away from this. So what they'll do is they'll actually back off, and their partner will be just like, what the hell's going on here? You know, where's Sheila gone? Sheila, where are you? I don't know, where is Sheila? Sheila's just disappeared, you know, she's buggered off into the night. But so yeah, the partner is just oh my god, you know, everything was going well, and now they've just disappeared. But the dismissive avoidant, they can't cope with that emotional connection. The partner's wanting too much, you know, it's getting serious. You start asking questions of each other and wanting and needs. You've both got needs, boundaries. And the dismissive avoidant does not like boundaries. Not when it comes to themselves. They're very good at giving out boundaries. In fact, the dismissive avoidant, out of all the attachments, are ones that really do like their own boundaries, because they are very the dismissive avoidant is very insular to their own needs rather than outwardly to the partner. So for themselves, they have no problem dishing out boundaries like chewing gum, seriously. But if their partner has needs, oh my god, they're like, nah, I'm not having that, and they back off, and they will back off, and you'd be just like, what's going on? And you want, you know, you want to hear from them, and the more you message them, the worse it gets. That'll make them even more back off and like, oh my god, just leave me alone, Barry. You know, just leave me the hell alone. You know, get the hell out. So if you go quiet on them, what tends to happen then is they're like, oh, okay, well, Barry's not a threat now. Actually, I miss Barry. Barry was fun. You know, he's a good geezer, good guy. I like Barry. Good old Barry. To all you Barrys out there. So, what happens then is it's like, oh, well, you know, I miss Barry because Barry's not asking for anything from the dismissive avoidant. So then they're thinking from a selfish point of view, well, I want the fun and that comes with the relationship. But of course, then it can get entwined again, and the same thing happens, and then they back off again. So it's like a push pull, not like with the faithful avoidant, but the push pull is a lot worse, because with the faithful avoidant, which we'll go on to in a second, the push pull is, it can be daily, weekly, or monthly, on and off, and it can be regular, or depending on how much they've worked on themselves, it can actually be quite a while before they get triggered, and that's what happens. So with the faithful avoidant, unlike the dismissive avoidant, which basically grew up in a house full of no love, the faithful avoidant had love, but it was not consistent. Now, because it's not consistent, basically what's happened with the faithful avoidant as they grow up is they have this betrayal wound. Because if the parent can't be consistent in giving them love, whether they're an alcoholic, whether they're really strict and don't show love, or maybe they're just not around as much as they should be. These things do happen, obviously, a lot. Now, with the faithful avoidant, obviously they take this into adulthood from the childhood, and with this, they have this core wound, which is, I can't trust people. Trust is a massive, massive thing with the faithful avoidant. They will test you again and again because they want to know that you are right. So with that, they will do little tests, and then once you pass the test, they'll give you more tests, and it'll carry on like that. And they do that because they want to be secure in knowing that you are going to be there for them, because they've had that inconsistency growing up. So in adulthood, they want to see that. I mean, obviously, it comes across in unhealthy ways, but it's understandable. So with the faithful avoidant, there's a push-pull. You see, unlike the dismissive avoidant, who are very emotionally just about themselves, the faithful avoidant is really craving emotion from the partner, and it's that sort of push-pull is them bringing the partner towards them, but also on the other hand, when they get triggered, because they naturally they think the relationship's going to come to an end, they think that their partner's going to betray them. So with that, because they have that betrayal wound, they will pull away if they get triggered. It could be something you've said, it could be that you've not done something you said you was going to do, and that will trigger their childhood core wound in thinking, oh, this person's not reliable. So they will do that push-pull dynamic. But the thing is, they actually will put the effort in to do the work because they really do want a relationship. Like all the attachments, the dismissive avoidance different. They're literally just about themselves, and I don't mean that in a nasty way. It's just they've not had love as a child. So with the anxious preoccupied, that is like the faithful avoidant. They have that anxious side, but it's just anxious. Because they were brought up anxious preoccupied in a household which had love, so they had the consistent love, but one or two caregivers could show inconsistencies, maybe in their demeanour, or you can't read what mood they're in. So as an anxious preoccupied, what that's going to basically do to you as a child is you're going to be reading the parent and thinking, what mood are they in? So what you tend to do then is you try to do whatever you can to try to keep them in a good mood. So if you see them changing, you see it's very hyper vigilant or anxious preoccupied, like fearful avoidance are. Fearful avoidance will notice everything because they're always on the lookout for anything that could be worrying to them. And the same with the anxious preoccupied. But the anxious preoccupied comes from it from a way of they're basically the love addict of all the attachments. So because as a child they kind of have to play possum a little bit, with the parent or caregiver. They have to play possum. So when they see a change or something in the parent or caregiver, they have to change to kind of play possum and sort of that's where they get the people pleasing from, because they do everything to sort of diffuse a situation because it can just happen like that, click of your fingers and it can change. So that's why they're so anxious and into adulthood and with relationships. So they're so hyper vigilant what their partner's doing, and they crave love so much because they feel that they have to give love to receive it. It's a very insecure way to do things. Very insecure. And they give too much weight on their partner's shoulders. They expect the partner to sort of soothe their own needs rather than look after their own needs. Like with the faithful avoidant, basically they're very good with their own needs because they've had to learn from a child that they have to look after themselves in a way, like the dismissive avoidant has. Obviously, with the faithful avoidant, it's different because obviously they had the love, but it was inconsistent. But with the anxious preoccupied, because they've had that love, and they've basically had to learn that to get love, you have to give love to receive it, which is not healthy because you shouldn't need to do that. So that's why anxious preoccupied can. Basically, it is the love addict of attachments, of all the attachments. So the last one is the secure attachment. That's the one we all want to get to. Now, as a child, they were brought up in a consistent way. They were shown love. Excuse me. They were shown love, consistency, discipline, but they knew where they stood with the parent. You'll have to forgive me, I was doing metalcore vocals yesterday and I'm a bit buggered. So, as a secure attachment, they're quite more than happy to let their partner be free. Unlike the anxious preoccupied that want to know what the partner doing all the time, messaging all the time, phone calls or whatever, where are you, what are you doing, who are you with? And the other attachments, the avoidant attachments, well, the fearful one, I should say, the dismissive avoidant probably couldn't care what you're doing. And that's not being nasty to the dismissive avoidant, it's just the way it is. The fearful avoidant is, because they've got that anxious side to them, like the anxious preoccupied, they worry about where the partner is, what they're doing, who they're with, who's Tina, who's Sally, who's blah blah blah, like the anxious preoccupied would as well. But with secure, it is what it says on the tin. You're more than happy for your partner to go out with their girlfriends, and yeah, I'll see you when you get back, or send us a message halfway through, whatever, because they have that security in themselves. As a secure person, they have that. They basically can look after their own needs. They don't need a partner to help with that need. So as a secure person, they're more than just like, yeah, I'll get on with whatever I'm doing, you have a good time with the girls or whatever, and they're quite content. A secure person will let you know what they think, but they'll do it in a nice way. There will be, this is what I think, but they won't do it in a way that's sort of out of anger or out of insecurity like an anxious preoccupied would do. I mean, an anxious preoccupied will just burst out in anger spurts at the partner, because it builds up again and again, where they think, oh God, they don't love me, which is crazy, because they're probably showing 99.9. They couldn't show any more, but you might see one little difference, which to you means everything, but it seems kind of a bit nuts to everybody else. And then this it'll build in you, and you'll have a go at them for no reason. Well, I mean, it is a reason for yourself, but it'll come across to the other person like, oh my God, what's he doing, or what's she doing? And same with the fearful avoidant. They will see things and they will not say it in a healthy way to you, because that's their core wound. They back away. So what I'd like basically is just, yeah, do you know your attachment? Are you familiar with attachment theory in general? Let me know in the comment section. If you could comment, like, subscribe, all those things apparently is what you're meant to do, so do it. So yeah, first video, it's always going to be the worst one, but I'd just like to know your thoughts on attachment, if you know what attachment you are. And what I'll do is I'll post an attachment test. You choose option 2. There's no emails, you're not going to get any of that kind of stuff, so it's not evasive. It's option 2, don't do option 1 because that's something completely different. Do option 2. It'll tell you what attachment you are, and obviously then you can, with that, know where you stand. You probably know already, because you might not know about attachment, but this probably makes a lot of sense to you. So anyway, I'll see you on the next video, and thanks for watching.